My name is James Silver. I'm an associate professor of the practice in the Department of Applied Social Sciences at the Metropolitan College. I'm stumbling over that because I've been here for a month. So I'm new, and I want to talk to you about some research that builds on research I've been doing for years and involves a very specific population. And I can see why I went after the presenter I'm going after, because I'm going to talk about suicide as well, specifically about public mass shooters and suicide. So there's a little definition up there. You can see what a public mass shooter is. What I'm talking about are the people you see listed there and the events you see listed there. These are people who kill 4 or more people in public. It has to be in public. We're not talking about domestic violence incidents, although those clearly worth a lot of study and attention, but that's not what I study. You can see the list of people up there, these events, and sadly, I'm sure you can think of many other events, right? This is well-known stuff. These events, for better or worse, probably for worse, drive the national dialogue about gun violence. And so even though this is what I study, I don't think it's necessarily what we should be using to drive gun policy in this country, but I think that we do. And I think that's an important thing that I'm going to come back to in a minute as I describe this study. So I want to talk about public mass shooters and suicidality. For a long time, we've known that about 40% of these attackers die at the scene. Either they die by suicide at their own hand, or perhaps they force police officers or responders to shoot them. We've known that for a long time. We've sort of thought of this in this area as kind of a co-occurring feature of mass homicides, right? People go in and shoot a bunch of people and then they kill themselves. I don't think we really paid that much attention to it. But as I've been studying this for years and years, and I've read study after study and case after case about these public mass shooters, I'm convinced they're all suicidal. They don't all kill themselves, but I think the 60% who don't die are actually committing what is a functional equivalent of suicide. It is the end of their lives. And I say this because it is stunning what they do once they're done pulling the trigger. Nothing. They don't try and escape ever. I mean, it's stunning. They don't use disguises. They don't have fake passports, getaway cars, cash. They don't avoid security cameras. They attack in public, right in broad daylight. Literally, they know this is the end. They're going to die by maybe the death penalty, or they're going to die in prison. It's their final act, is what I call it. The Parkland shooter, perfect example of this. This person goes ahead and posts a video that says he's going to go do a school shooting. Then he takes an Uber in his name to the school where he just was kicked out of 2 years before, walks in broad daylight, shoots a bunch of people, then just walks out. He goes to a local Subway where he orders a drink. He does leave a tip, by the way. He then walks around the neighborhood till he gets arrested. That was what he did afterwards, and that's what they all do. So I want to explain that, and I've been looking for an explanation for why all these people are suicidal and how we can make use of that information if it's true. The first thing we have to do is understand, is there some theory behind this that can explain why I think all of these people are suicidal? If we can understand that, perhaps we can understand what drives them to do what they do. Because right now, we don't have a really good idea. So Dr. Joyner is a very eminent psychologist at the University of Florida and has this theory that is quite well accepted. And in every Venn diagram, I don't have cool heat maps, I just have a Venn diagram, sorry. But in every Venn diagram, right, the interesting stuff's in the middle. So if you see that arrow pointing there, those are people who have all 3 of the qualities that you need to commit suicide, according to Dr. Joyner. And I think that's our 40% of attackers who die at the scene. Just above that, though, I think are the 60%. They want to die, but they don't have that crucial third capacity to kill themselves. So they don't. But I think they're all suicidal. So I think that's going to help us understand who these people are if we can understand what drives them to do what they do. Additionally, I've been thinking about this, is suicidality is not just now not somewhat co-occurring, but completely universally occurring feature of mass murder. Could it be something that drives the mass murder? Could it be a driver and not just an adjacent part of it? Dr. Joyner did this very interesting study. It's a fascinating study about young children and their abilities to resolve conflicts. And he says, and it's true, that the children who are actively suicidal are much more likely to think homicidal thoughts. And it's not very subtle. I mean, these kids are talking about bombs going off and slashing people to death and poisoning people. It's very graphic, very homicidal. Dr. Joyner and I are collaborating on a project we literally just started 2 weeks ago, where we're going to try and rethink the role of suicidality. You can see our research questions there, right? We want to know, does this theory possibly explain all of these shooters? And can we find a connection between suicidality and the homicidality? We're going to look for temporal connections and what we call, effective drivers of the activity. The potential here is this. As I said, these are the events that drive passion. These gets the media attention, political attention. So if that is the case, could we not use that to say, put more effort, more research dollars into prevention of suicide, which of course will have an outstanding benefit of helping millions of people who face suicide and millions of families who face it, but also, I hope, prevent future public mass shootings. Thank you very much.